and I said, maybe I could drink my water, and suddenly there was little snakes in my water, and I couldn't drink my water. I was about to pour the snakes down my cup and get some more water. Suddenly there was a big snake in there, and I couldn't get the big snake out, and I was like, I would just go on the tree and go get him. And I would leave my cup on the ground and go on the tree. And I suddenly, the bark was coming off, and suddenly I couldn't hold on very long. And suddenly I got that rope, and I was reaching, and suddenly I got that rope, and I got down, and I swinged off, and I got on your umbrella, and I couldn't get off. I was like, could jump off, and I was like, swear to God, I would just break that umbrella, and suddenly I got down because I was on your tent. Suddenly I got off because luckily that table was there, and luckily I climbed over the woods, and I suddenly the doggy was coming, and suddenly I went back inside, and suddenly he was coming from there, and suddenly I had to hide, and suddenly I had to hide somewhere, and I was like, I'll hide in a better place, and maybe I will hide up there so you can't get me, because he was barking at me, and I was running at him so he could go away, and I said, wait, and I was like, that won't help, and I got a big dinosaur who could scare him away. I got real dinosaurs so he could go pour over it, and suddenly I went on the dinosaur, and I couldn't get off. I was like, could swat off his tail, and suddenly he put his tail up, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't get up, and I was like choking, and I couldn't, and I was like, go to quesadillas and get some salt, and pour all the salt over him. And I was like, maybe I could get, and I was like, break the house, and I was like, maybe I could take all this stuff out so I could break the house. And suddenly I couldn't break the house because it's made out of wood, and I couldn't break the house. It was like on magic cords, and I couldn't get off, and suddenly I got all the cords off, and suddenly I broke the house, and suddenly I couldn't live somewhere, and it was about to find me, and I was like running, and I went in a magic horse house, and suddenly it was about to boom on the other side, and I was like, oh, and the tent broke, and I couldn't get on and I did a better tent I could hide in, and I go get doors, and suddenly there was snakes on the doors, and suddenly I got those doors so I could make them as doors, and suddenly I hooked them on. And I got hammer and nails so I could hammer them on and get some tape so I could stick them together. And then I hooked them together as the strings. And I got more doors, and suddenly I was running out of doors. And suddenly I was using the Twitch doors, and suddenly those doors were like small, and suddenly I got those doors are super long, and I couldn't carry them because they're like very heavy, and I couldn't get them on me, and I was like pushing them to the backyard, and I was like and it wouldn't help because I needed to get another part, and I took all the parts of the tent in here, and I was like out of the tent in my room, and suddenly it was too big for my room, and I said and I said, suddenly I will move the table, and suddenly I broke the table, and suddenly I had so many room for my tent, and suddenly I broke the fan.